Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks hockey podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
As the title of this episode will reveal, it's all quiet on the Western Front. Nothing new to report the past week that was, because it's been obviously boring as all could be, right, Anna?
Yeah, incredibly dull week.
Not much went down. We struggled.
Week.
I mean, I you must have slaved away at this rundown just to
really
pull
couldn't
some
think
stuff out
of
of here we
anything.
can talk about. Yeah. How'd we do in the week that was, Anna? I mean, the Canucks started off the week that was by proving you and I to know absolutely nothing about what it takes to win a hockey game, huh?
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I was going to re-listen to our segment on the way over, but Canucks unfortunately shortened the time period between the end of the game and the start of the podcast by going to overtime.
How dare they?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure we both predicted 4 points, right, out of 8.
We did. We predicted 4 out of a possible 8. The Vancouver Canucks did us dirty by getting one more than 4. They got out of the gate hot. They wanted to prove you wrong and prove me wrong in consecutive games.
Yeah.
Right? And then, you know, that game against the Stars, you know, not entirely sure why they couldn't get a win there. It's not like there was anything going on, right?
Yeah. Extremely quiet.
Yeah,
and regular
before the
game.
Quiet.
Yeah.
After the game, quiet. Nothing happened. I mean, we're obviously being facetious because that's what the best mediocre longest running podcast does these days. But JT Miller is the domino in the drama to have been dealt to another player. JT Miller, no longer a Vancouver Canuck, currently plying his trade in New York for the Rangers, where he's gone and put up 1,000 points or something like that. I don't exactly know.
I do think it might have been JT Miller in a microcosm, 2 goals and 1 tantrum, I believe.
Well, hasn't he gotten an apple there too?
Yes, that's true. Apple? I think he has an assist in the game tonight.
So this episode of C4 is going to be a whole lot of different because Anna and I we've had some time to digest what has transpired this past week. We want to share our thoughts. We have opinions. And there's a lot of other stuff going on that hasn't quite made the rundown, but, you know, we're going to talk about it because we don't shy away from the difficult stuff here at C4. That's why we have OTR. That's where all the difficult stuff generally gets housed that's too difficult for the main show. For those of you who don't know what OTR is, Off the Rails, it's the supporters-only show that people get access to when they throw us a few dollars on a monthly or annual basis at buymeacoffee.com, or as Anna and I like to refer to it as,
Buy me a pint.
That's right. But we'll talk more about that a little bit later. JT Miller, no longer a Vancouver Canuck, not the only one. What has transpired? What has taken place? All of that and more in Rewind. Where were you when news broke that JT Miller had been traded?
I mean, I think I was sat right here in my office chair on a Friday afternoon. So kind of since the trade drama has heated up and being aware that I might not be at my, on the internet at the time, I put Elliot Friedman on post notifications.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago. I believe right around the time the Carolina trade didn't happen. And I've had so many run-of-the-mill notifications where Elliot's talking about players going on waivers and people going in and out of lineups. And then finally, it happened. The post-notification was relevant.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this trade that was consummated between the New York Rangers and the Vancouver Canucks on Friday is that leading up to it, the scuttlebutt had turned to Elias Pettersson being
right in the couple days before,
to Columbus, right? and that
Or
they weren't
Buffalo.
the only, or Buffalo, right? There was like it was Petey, and I talked to some friends, a few of the dads here in the complex. Like, what do you think's going to happen? And I'm like, I don't know. I think the ship has sailed on a trade for Miller. It sounds like that just can't seem to work out. Something's going on between, Vancouver and New York, and New York continues to have cold feet about the deal, and Vancouver isn't budging on something. I'm like, it's just going to come. They're probably going to trade Pete. I think that's what it's going to be. And then, word trickles out on Friday. JT Miller has left the rink in Dallas, which immediately is like, he's been traded. There's no other reason why he would have left. There could have been, but realistically, no other reason as to why he was leaving the rink. And then it becomes official. He's going to. Well, it hasn't. Let me phrase this: officially unofficial.
Yes, because I think
It took Vancouver a while to.
and we had all the details of the trade before the trade call seemed to have happened.
So this is where the details then come into play. All that is very clear: JT Miller going to the Rangers. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly it's like you've got Larry Brooks, Emily Kaplan, Farhan Lalji, Elliot Friedman, everyone.
Rick, Dhaliwal, like everyone.
Dhaliwal, chipping in Cam Robinson.
Oh, yes,
Show Cam
of
there, he
course.
was chipping in. And so we were, in C4 Discord, I pinged everyone. I don't ping everyone regularly. And I'm like, it is happening.
Yeah.
This is big news. And it first sort of came out, it was JT Miller going to New York for Yedel in a first round pick. And people are like, that's it. Then the other pieces were added. So Eric Brandstrom and Canucks prospect Jackson Dorrington also joined JT to make the trip to New York. Although I guess they're actually not probably, hang out in here for too long, those two. But it was Hedel,
Hedel,
Mancino.
Oh,
I
the Italian
remember
way
his
would
first
be
name.
Mancino, but that doesn't necessarily mean
be
anything.
Mancino.
He's Italian American, so.
And then it was the first round pick was a protected pick. So essentially, if it was I think it was in the top 13, then it would be retained
correct.
by New York, and anything else, it would be a pick, Vancouver pick. And if it went to 2016, it wasn't protected. And I get it. The vast amount of reaction, based on what I'm seeing online, is split, and I would say maybe 2/3 are unhappy of the deal. And the unhappiness is either a combination of we didn't get enough for JT, or why the heck did you trade JT?
Right. To me, maybe it's just the people I follow. I would say it was much closer to 50-50. So, I maybe and probably pushing more people happy with the trade. But of course, that was very much in context of the difficult situation the Canucks were in, which I think is fair, right? Canucks were not in a position of strength whatsoever. And of course, JT Miller is still a very strong player, but he's aging, already known as, somewhat difficult in the locker room. And Canucks need to move him.
Victor Mancini.
Mancini. Yeah.
With an I, no.
Oh, yeah, I wrote it wrong. Or my phone corrected it. Who knows?
No, in fairness, new players.
And also,
we're
it's
not trying to
Vittorio,
disrespect.
apparently, listed. He's been reported as Victor and Vittorio, so on the league website it says Vittorio. Anyway, I hope it's Vittorio. That's fun.
Sorry to have interrupted you there. I just wanted to correct
Yeah,
myself.
but in the context, I think it's decent, right? Obviously, the heel part, and we'll get on to his debut later, but he's had concussion issues. That's something of concern. But that pick, especially if it goes to 2026, that did put the Canucks in a decent position at that point.
Well, okay. The likelihood of it. So, New York's playing well. The likelihood of it going to 2026 was very slim.
I wouldn't say very slim, just because I don't think New York have, unless Miller completely changes their team. I still think, yes, you're right, it probably would be a 2025 pick, but I I still think New York aren't very good.
Okay. So, and to my point is being sort of 2/3, maybe, 70-30, is that the people I follow, I'm genuinely okay with it, 50-50 split. But what's interesting is the people who are okay with the deal, there are sort of the two camps. There's the, you weren't negotiating from strength, something had to happen, I didn't necessarily care who. And then there was the, thank goodness you didn't trade Petey crowd.
Which
And
I would say I was slightly part of, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, if you forced me to ask, I would have said keep Petey.
Yeah.
But I felt a trade had to happen, despite not wanting a trade to have ever needed to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, that all went down before the game, which then meant the Vancouver Canucks were technically down a guy that they would have relied on. A player who had suddenly found Fs again in the couple of games preceding this one.
Sure.
But, or at least momentary glimpses of the Fs. Mm-hmm. And Vancouver went into Dallas, and I don't think they played too poorly. All things considered, and that second period was phenomenal in the sense of Vancouver throwing everything they could, including the kitchen sink that they ripped out of the dressing room. But the blue line having some issues. Quinton Hughes, who's been to war, and I mean, what do you think it was? Do you think it was a groin?
I think it's a leg.
He was hurt. Like you could tell the way he was trying to stretch, and he was hurt. Like he was hurting.
Yeah.
Had to leave the bench for a good spell. Like he, as we know, he is the blue line. And
he's the blue line. He's like the forward line. Like Quinn Hughes is everything.
Vancouver ended up losing in what was arguably a not so close game. Yeah, you look at the score sheet, you're like, dude, it was close. Was it 4 goals in the final, 4 minutes of the third period? Vancouver was down 4-1 before it got close again.
Right. This third period definitely got away from Canucks for sure. And yeah.
So here we are, Anna and I in C4 Discord, a good number of people were reasoning with ourselves that this first round pick, it can help, rebuild the depth or potentially even be used down the road as a negotiating piece, maybe a further trade. Like we accepted that was a possibility. But if we had 2 first picks in the first round this season, not something to be too upset about. Yeah, JT Miller, not going to replace him, whether it be through free agency or potentially another trade. Like, you're not going to get that player for what the Vancouver Canucks gave up. The thing is that the front office wasn't done cooking.
No.
Because I was listening to the post game when word came out that first round pick was no longer Vancouver's.
Yeah. I went to dinner. I missed the end of the game. I went to dinner, came home. I was lying on my sofa digesting a giant meal, and then I was just like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. So again, details start trickling out, and word comes out that the Vancouver Canucks have acquired Marcus Pettersson because you got to collect them all.
Yeah.
Okay. And Desharnais was going to Pittsburgh. And immediately you're like, no, that's not a 1-to-1. The Canucks are sending more. And the next thing came out is the first round pick. And people are like, what? We had it. We were reasoning with ourselves that the Vancouver Canucks didn't do too poorly. Now the first round pick is gone. And, as it all sort of worked out, Dan Heinen, Vincent Desharnais, our first pick in the last draft, which wasn't in a first round, Melvin Fernstrom, and that 2025 first round pick from the New York Rangers, that's protected, could be 2026, goes to Pittsburgh for Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor. And of note, both of those 2 players drew into the lineup, as did Edel. Edel drew into the lineup tonight against the Detroit Red Wings. The challenge I have with this deal comes down to the fact that both the 2 players that the Vancouver Canucks have acquired are unrestricted free agents at the conclusion of the season. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that, hey, if things don't work out, that still maintains cap flexibility, which if we were to rewind a little bit, You and I both said in C4 Discord, we saw what Vancouver was able to do with the JT Miller trade and what they got back without having to retain
Yes.
as kind of a win. In
Yes.
fact, I mean, I was off my rocker at one point suggesting I would have been okay for JT Miller to be traded for next to nothing if it meant his full contract was off the books.
Right.
And that's not to suggest I'm trying to get rid of a player. I just, like, the Canucks can't retain. Mm-hmm. So, how do you feel about the Pittsburgh-Vancouver deal?
It's strange because I don't necessarily feel like I would still say I feel underwhelmed because I feel like that pick that we got out of the New York deal was a lot that people are holding on to sort of show, yeah, like we actually got out of that JT mess pretty well. I do think the doom mongering was a bit much. Like, I appreciate what you're saying about the expiring deals. I do think re-signing Marcus Pettersson is a huge priority, and Drew O'Connor, like, they've been keen on him for a while, so, and he makes under $1 million right now, so, like, they have that freedom, like you say, to sort of see how it goes. But, yeah, like, Desharnais has been very poor to plus a couple of games of being okay. He's been, like, it took until, like, Quinn Hughes and Rona got injured for him to get to the level that he was third pairing. Like, as in, acceptable third pairing level. He hasn't been good. That was a bust, I would say. Danton Heinen hasn't been awful, but really, like, he has not lived up to what Canucks were hoping he would be. He's been, you know, pretty invisible a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. So getting rid of two people that really aren't doing their job. Bringing in people that hopefully do a better job. Like, it's not fantastic by any means, and that blue line still doesn't look great. But, yeah, it certainly looks better than it did.
Yeah, again, the only issue I have is that the Vancouver Canucks could, after all is said and done, wind up with really Yedel and Mangini with this, which they've given up quite a bit for. I'm not.
But if they do end up with that, they also end up with a buttload of cap space. Like,
correct, and I. It's just what you like, JT. Like, we have to acknowledge what the Canucks gave up with JT Miller.
Yep.
They're not getting back, even with that buttload of cap space. Or if they do, they're going to pay more than what they were paying JT Miller, right? Like, that's sort of me. And I'm not unhappy. Like, I'm not saying, oh, the Canucks are screwed. Fire Alvin.
Yeah.
Fire Jim. No, like, the pitchforks for me are not required at this point. I will qualify that by saying everything that the Vancouver Canucks need to do moving forward, and hopefully the front office is in agreement, is what do we do to keep Quinn Hughes a Vancouver Canuck for life?
Right, and I do think that's their priority, like, beyond everything else.
And that's where the buttload of space can help build around Quinn. My worry is they go and they trade like Petey. They don't, we'll talk about this, but Brock is a restricted free agent. He goes. And
yeah.
Then the concern I have is, well, what are you surrounding Quinn with?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm like, yes, it's obviously completely true that there is so much pressure on Pettersson, and he better start living up to this
and we're
contract.
Talking about
Elias Pettersson,
Elias
EP
or Marcus.
40.
So he's okay. This is nicknames. Petey is Elias Pettersson. DPD is Elias Pettersson.
Correct.
And the Petey from Pittsburgh, whose nickname was Petey there, and he respects. You can't call me Petey, and you already have a DPD.
Yeah, so I think the options are 3 PD, which we probably could have used on DPD in the first place.
3 PD?
Yeah, that's so stupid. Sorry. 3 PD, they can be collectively. Pity, because he's from Pittsburgh. Or
pity is like...
Yeah, it's not
pity,
good.
That's not... No, I'm gonna strike that one. Veto.
Okay, and then Drew O'Connor has already offered up an alternative.
Dragon?
Dragon.
Yeah.
I don't know if Marcus Pedersen's going to go for that. But that's what Drew O'Connor calls him.
Yeah, so if you get confused when we start talking about Pedersens, we will do a better job at trying to explain which of the many Pedersens the Vancouver Canucks
Maybe
are
we'll have to
are
do
the ones we're going to talk about.
First names. But Elias...
But Elias and Elias. So Elias is the
we're not
forward.
writing them down.
Elias is the defenseman.
Yes. So...
Marcus is a defenseman.
Yes. Also a defenseman. Yes, Elias is under a lot of pressure. But
he, in a post-game at Dallas, had said, I want it. Bring it on.
Sure. Also, what else is he going to say? It's so funny to me that people were like, oh, he actually had the nicest things to say about JT in that interview.
He wasn't going to throw him under the bus.
He's not going to dance on his grave saying "Ding dong, the witch is dead." He also was the most understated European ever, being like, "Yeah, I think, we actually pushed each other, so we will miss him." It was so understated. Obviously, it was very clear his feelings to me.
So what do you think is going to transpire when Vancouver takes on New York?
I mean, it's in MSG, right? So I do think the prospect of any crowd shenanigans is low. MSG is a very engaged crowd, but they don't have any.
JT is going to go
dogs
and
in the
take
fight.
a run at Petey, though. If he were to, that would actually. Okay, I'm not trying to. I'm not advocating. I do not want to see it. But if he were to do that, there better be a response.
Oh yeah,
from every Vancouver Canuck on the ice in that moment.
And that's something I kind of want to go back to. Is in Elias's case is no doubt he has to step up big time to play up to the contract that he has not been playing up to. But, he also needs to be put in the best position for that. Mm-hmm. So, and you do think that, we'll see, but, keeping Brock around, to me, that might be, if that's the best way for Elias to succeed, then do it, but I don't think Canucks are keen on that.
How
many times
going to get paid?
Yeah,
and now that the cap is allegedly going up to 90 some odd million, that Vancouver Canucks then have a lot of room, but so do so many other teams.
Exactly. And Olvin is still saying, "Oh, we're evaluating him." He's played hundreds of games for the Canucks. How much more do you need to evaluate? That just says to me, we're waiting to see if there's an offer on the table for him.
Okay, I'm this is sort of where I stand with Brock, is that if the Vancouver Canucks aren't going to re-sign him, they've made that decision, they must trade him.
Well, 100%.
They cannot go past the deadline with Brock still on the roster. There's no plan to re-sign.
And the thing is, I know they've said that there's no animosity between the sides. If Brock stays on the roster till the end of the season without a contract, he's going to play hard and play his guts out, and he will walk away from the Canucks without any regrets. But like you say, either you back him, you back PD with Brock, or you decide it's not worth it and flip him. You have to trade him.
And if their intention is we want to keep him, we want to re-sign him, we're near each other, we think we're going to get there, I'm okay if they were to then sort of maybe roll the dice a little, but there is no indication that that's the case.
Exactly.
Alvin and Ruther, hey, he's got a number in mind, he's well entitled to that number, and we've got a far different one. Oops, hit the mic. Professional podcast. Edel, if you've not really heard of his play in New York, You went and maybe looked up his stats last season and were kind of confused. Like, did the Vancouver Canucks, take a prospect out of New York's hands for JT Miller? No. Philip Yedel has had some concussion troubles. And I mean, I feel in saying concussion trouble, I'm not giving it its credence. Concussions are nothing to joke about. They're very serious, and he's had some serious concussions. It is, I don't believe, unfair to suggest that his game and his ability to play in the NHL is somewhat tenuous due to the repeated concussions.
It's a concern.
Dealt with. It is. And, there is those out there that feel that he's damaged goods, and the Vancouver Canucks got hosed because Philip Yedel is, one bad hit away from retiring. I hope that never occurs, that he retires after a long career. But based on the one game that I saw, he likes having the puck on his stick. And, he scored a goal tonight. He was pumped up. He was, enjoying life in that moment. But the Vancouver Canucks haven't had a player like that in some time. And I like how his game seemed to be complementary to his line mates. So I'm not as concerned, save for the fact that I do acknowledge concussions are not something to mess around with.
100%. And, it's definitely a concern, but, what can we do other than, evaluate the player we've seen so far? And, obviously, if it came up again, that's something we talk about again, but, obviously, Canucks recently, they had Tucker Pullman, with back concussions. He hasn't played again. Travis, why have I forgotten his name? Dermott, thank you. Has come back, and he seems to have been okay after a lengthy spell off the ice. It's a concern. But, right now, he seems to be... He's an exciting player. He seemed to fit in well. You'd say that all the new Canucks were playing well tonight.
Marcus Pettersson shored up a blue line that's been hurting. It didn't obviously help that Quinn Hughes was a potential scratch, took the warm-up, and a late scratch.
Yeah.
So I have Quinn in my hockey pool, and I got the notification this morning that there was a risk that he was out day-to-day. Then I got another notification, great news, he's playing. And then I got another notification at puck drop, scratched. Day-to-day. And, having seen Quinn's face and the pain that he's experienced on Friday.
Yeah. When he, returned to the game like The Undertaker.
Yeah, let's shut him down for whatever time he needs. The Four Nations Cup is approaching, and if Quinn needs to skip that, oh dear.
Can I just say, he better effing skip the Four Nations. If Alex Pietrangelo can skip the Four Nations while still continuing to play for his club, then Quinn Hughes, who is held together with sticky tape, come on.
There's some aluminum or something on his hand.
Yeah.
That's wrapped in sticky tape.
I'm sure it means a lot to play for your country, but sorry, pal. If we want you to play it again this season, that doesn't seem sensible.
Yeah.
I'm obviously biased because, I hate internationals and don't have any sort of dog in the fight, but...
Well, Marcus Pettersson did look good on the second line, though, or second defensive pairing. That's not, which I guess is a second line. It's not to confuse with the four lines up front. Drew O'Connor, he looked
fast.
like a serviceable, third line player.
I hope Rick Tocchet doesn't coach speed and passing out of him. Because I thought he was really exciting to watch. Weirdly, the most the Pedersen who had the best game was DPD.
Yeah, got his first NHL point.
First NHL point, honestly.
Pia Suter's first goal, yeah. Or
Could
first
have-
goal of the game.
Could have scored. Like, he had he created a lot of chances. He had a really good game.
So I want to ask you this. I get that, DPD isn't your first line pairing, but wouldn't you be happier to see him partnered with someone other than Forbort?
Yeah, I wouldn't. In my dream scenario, no one's partnered with Derek Forbort.
No,
Sorry.
but there are other options to
But
match him with.
I do think the biggest liability on the blue line is Noah Juleson.
What are you talking about? Carson Soucy was the one who got scratched. Coach's decision.
Well, yeah, he's not, I guess, currently playing. Though it's really a toss-up between the two. They're both pretty dangerous in a bad way on the ice. Like, I've seen a lot of talk tonight about, whether Pedersen Elias is being put in the best position to succeed, which we've already talked about. But, if you don't, the best, the best defense is a good offense, and vice versa. The attack starts from your own blue line, and putting him on with Noah Juleson is not necessarily the best position to succeed.
Yeah, you gotta learn somehow.
Yeah, I mean, Noah Juleson doesn't seem to, but yeah.
The thing that I liked about DP's games, and outside of the fact that he was involved offensively, he looked like he had gotten jazzed up knowing that he gets to be the DPD over the other DPD. Who, credit to Marcus Pedersen changing his number so as to not put the Vancouver Canucks in a situation having to bring Luc Bourdon's number back into circulation.
Yeah. He seems very aware of everything. He also was aware of the DPD nickname already existing, so yeah.
Well, okay.
He's a smart.
And if our listeners haven't heard, Tocchet actually was asked about his thoughts, and he had said that Sidney Crosby had texted him to say that Marcus Pedersen and Drew O'Connor, but specifically Marcus Pedersen, was a solid leader on the ice. Very
good guy, yeah.
Yeah. He's an offensively minded defenseman. His fancy stats on the defensive side, maybe not so strong this season. But hey, let's be honest. Who in the Vancouver Canucks other than Quinn Hughes is?
Yeah.
But DPD, he was playing smart. There were a couple times where Forbort made some choices, and DPD was like, yeah, you're going to make a choice here. Let me be smart about this.
Yeah.
For a young kid, that seems to be very intelligent and to give your partner the freedom to screw the F up.
Spent a week with the big club, Mm-hmm. Quick off the rails that obviously Elias Pedersen missed the All-Star game today because he stayed up with a big club. I'm pleased he played because I honestly...
He wasn't going to
I
originally.
know, which I thought was lame. You don't...
Over Noah Juleson.
You don't keep a guy with the club. You couldn't let him go for a day or to go play in the All-Star game if he's not going to play. Best possible scenario, he did play. He had a great game, got his first NHL point, and Ty Mueller got to play for the Baby Canucks. If it's the year of Pedersen with the Vancouver Canucks, it's the year of Ty with the Baby Canucks. They have a lot of ties. So Ty Mueller acquitted himself pretty well, at least in the shootout or whatever they call it, breakaway challenge. So, yeah.
The Vancouver Canucks, and so we're going to do a real funky sort of, week that was here, did lose in overtime to Detroit. What's interesting is that the Vancouver Canucks were, I would say, the better team with the puck most of the night.
Yeah.
For overtime. Lyon made some phenomenal saves. Lankinen did too, but Lyon made more.
Yes, that's a fair assessment, I would say.
And, Vancouver just couldn't find a way to get the goals or get the calls.
Were you trying to make goals rhyme with calls there?
I was. It was a very
that
very
was tired.
Very long reach.
Yeah, not so good. Yeah, you're right. Like, you definitely can't blame the missed calls, although there were plenty.
We're Canucks fans. We're biased. The Vancouver Canucks, how many power plays did they get that game?
0.
Mm-hmm. And you could say, like, okay, well, it was, the referees put their whistles in their pockets. They kind of did. But if you're going to call penalties that are very clear against the Canucks, you kind of can't then say, well, I'm going to put my whistle in my pocket when Detroit goes and, like, Petey just got outright, like, tackled.
Yeah, like, he literally got his skates taken out. It was very clear tripping. The referee was
looking straight at it.
Couple feet away. Right in front of the net, like such a clear scoring chance.
And then late in the third, Petey cuts through the middle. He does not have the puck, and I can't remember which Red Wing defenseman it was, essentially, like, cross-checks him to the ice. Like, takes Petey completely out of the play. If that is not interference, I don't know what is. It's not, it's not the play where, hey, I chip the puck forward and the defenseman gets in your way. Petey did not have possession of the puck. Petey never had possession of the puck. He simply was trying to go and get himself in a scoring position, and the defenseman said no.
Yeah, there was some lame missed calls, but yeah, overall, the Canucks...
Overtime sucked.
But like, the Canucks...
The Vancouver Canucks did not look like the team that was going to win in overtime. Save for that one opportunity where, according to online game notes, Petey hit the crossbar. Though during the broadcast, they say he missed the net.
I didn't hear a crossbar.
Neither did I.
And I was watching on quite a big screen, but, like, I didn't see that. But yeah, like, you can't... Like, Canucks were completely dominant over the Red Wings and didn't win. Like, they only have themselves to blame for that.
Yeah. But as we sort of, go to the start of the week. So the Vancouver Canucks hit the road. They decided to look real good against the Blues, led by, Tyler Myers, who has returned to form.
Yeah, his form from his rookie year.
I don't know if the suspension got him to sit there and think about things that he needed to think about and hasn't thought about in some time. I don't know. He looked real good. Garland has been looking like Garland.
Yeah, could have close to a hat trick. I did find it extremely funny that the Blues had a massive breakdown after losing to the Canucks. Like,
no, I hadn't heard any of this.
I mean,
it's like we don't lose to a team like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Are we gonna have, shirts now?
I mean, they put Brandon Saad on waivers like the day after the game. He got claimed already. Like, they say, like, you had Braden Shen.
Oh, well, that was the other thing. So, can I
during
ask
the
you
game.
about this? Can I ask you about this?
Okay.
The Braden Shen, JT Miller fight on a face-off after a Vancouver goal. What was that about? What do you think? Do you think that was Braden Shen wanting to get his team back into it and saying, hey, JT, let's go? And JT was like, let's dance? Because the puck hit the ice, the gloves hit the ice, maybe a millisecond after.
Braden Shen said that. He said he was just trying to...
I hadn't heard that.
Okay, so during his intermission...
If maybe, Luke had floated him some...
I mean, maybe he's not popular with any of the Shens, but, like... Yeah, no, Braden Shen said during the intermission interview, he called his team out and said, like, that he was trying to get everyone re-engaged with that fight and that it didn't really work. Basically.
So, but that's the thing. Like, why does JT take that invitation? Like, the Vancouver Canucks just scored a goal.
At that point, maybe it's like maybe he thought it would make him look pretty bad. Although it's weird to think of JT really giving an F what Canucks fans think at this point. And sorry, that's not to throw further shade at JT. Like, I do think he still cares about, like, his time in Vancouver, and it's not like he wants to say screw all Canucks fans, but at that point you have to think that he's no longer fully engaged with that. I don't know.
Well, and again, if you were to say, hey, Chris, it's the code. When someone asks you to dance, you sign the card. But the code also states you don't go and put your team in a position to lose momentum. Vancouver has scored a goal, and you're dancing on the face-off. I just don't get that part. Anyhow, whatever. I never played hockey. Never been in the room. So all you haters out there continue to hate me. I'm going to continue to podcast. But the Vancouver Canucks do put up a 5-2 W against the St. Louis Blues. And people online, this is again before the events on Friday, are like, look at the Vancouver Canucks. They're going to string together wins. But see, the other thing that had occurred sort of Sunday to Monday was that Rutherford had sat down with Globe and Mail columnist Gary Mason and essentially admitted to the fact that, Petey and Miller, they got bad blood. Something needs to be done. We got to get rid of one or two of them. We didn't like the fact that Petey showed up to camp the way he showed up. It took him a while to get going. Brock going to get money, but we're not going to necessarily be the ones giving it to him. What laundry was left in the cupboard after Rutherford sat down with Mason?
I have thoughts and feelings, so I feel like you go first.
Well, I was going to say, the other part about this is you've just gone and put your players in just an untenable position, because what is JT being asked? Hey, now that your coach has come out and said that there's bad blood. Mm-hmm. Or not your coach, sorry, your president of hockey
operations. Although the coach also did say that.
Yeah, but...
Or at least alluded to it.
There were people who were still riding the whole, the media is the problem. The media is the problem. No, your POHO just went and admitted it. The media have been asking the tough questions because they've known all along there's a problem. Anyhow, thoughts, Anna?
Okay, so first of all, I do think the media were taking a victory lap from that, just like...
Oh, okay. Hot damn, they were.
And it's just like, yes, there were plenty of people still saying you were making it up. Most intelligent fans did not think that there was any point in which you were making that up. Everyone could read the tea leaves from that perspective. What I will say is, I understand everyone already knew, about the PD Miller thing. You probably weren't significantly reducing the trade value by admitting that. Although I will say, if you're talking so openly about it, it's probably even worse than whatever you're admitting to. So, teams go from thinking, oh yeah, they definitely want to get rid of one of these players too. Oh, they're desperate.
Going in saying, yeah, we gotta make a change. It's that bad.
But
I think it's his comments, and then the scuttlebutt about Petey potentially going to Columbus or Buffalo. That Petey's getting traded.
Yeah,
because Rutherford has said something has to happen.
Yeah, because it's honestly my overriding feeling about the article was that it was just really embarrassing. I thought it showed a disregard for the fans a little bit because
Rutherford doesn't care.
I agree. And Thomas Drance, who was maybe the first person to actually give a legitimate reason for Rutherford coming out and talking, rather than giving reasons why not, if that makes sense. A lot of people saying, why does it matter what he said? Whereas Thomas Drance finally said, well, maybe it was a message to ownership. It's either a message to fans or ownership, get ready, because this is happening. And to me, I thought that was kind of lame, just because I was okay, you've just made fans feel 100% worse. Mm-hmm. It was just in case Canucks fans felt a day of joy from winning 2 games in a row, it was just oh, we're the joke of the league again.
Yeah.
That was my thoughts.
The thing about Gary Mason, if first of all, if you've never heard of Gary Mason was a beat reporter in the sports scene here in Vancouver quite some time. He's now on the national side with the Globe and Mail. Gary Mason has reported on a variety of different topics, but sports and the Vancouver Canucks has always been a thing. I can't say with 100% certainty because I am not there, but Gary Mason has had a direct line, it seems, to Vancouver Canucks ownership
Yes.
for many years. We're talking like back to the Griffiths era. And if not a direct line to ownership, a direct line to senior leadership within the front office. And if you were to be very curious as to, is Chris telling the truth? You need only to read Brian Burke's book, which again, I'm not trying to promote it. I'm not selling it.
You do seem like you are.
It's relevant. Brian Burke has a part of his book dedicated to, media he doesn't like and those he does. But one of the people that comes up is Gary Mason and him sitting down and Gary asking him some very pointed questions about an article he's going to run based on things he's heard. And while Brian doesn't come out and outright say it, you can tell he's suggesting that Gary has gotten word from ownership. And it ultimately, the article put Brian in a position that a player found out about stuff before Brian had a chance to sit down and talk to them about it. But if Gary is talking, it's not because he's the media trying to stir things up. It's because someone's told him. And to the point of, is Rutherford trying to send a message to ownership or to the fans? What's not to say it's ownership trying to facilitate a conversation to again send a message, or to us or the fans? There's definitely a message sent. That said, didn't seem to distract the Vancouver Canucks from getting a job done in Nashville, where they look good. Niels Höglander seems to have found his game-ish. Again, so long as he stays out of Tocchet's doghouse. Linus Karlsson looked good. In fact, wasn't the line PD, Karlsson, and Höglander?
Yeah, the Swedish line.
Yeah, they were playing really, really well.
I mean, I don't know what Karlsson does, but he makes short-term impact. He played in the playoffs and got the internal player of the game award, I think his first game with the Canucks, and then he got mentioned by the opposition coach after the game again, within a couple of games of playing. So, short-term impact, Linus Karlsson.
Yeah. But then it took us into Dallas, where obviously the Vancouver Canucks were playing on whatever they had in the tank after everything that had transpired. Anna's fantasy star, Rope Hintz. I always thought it was Rupe, but it's Rope.
I think it's Rupert. Really?
Nope. I'm shaking my head. Our listeners can't hear it. Yeah, I did. I was corrected. He was on my fantasy team. I cut him today. Not because he scored against the Vancouver Canucks. I needed to cut someone off my team to get someone off the IR, and Hintz just happened to be the lowest rated player I had up front. But the Vancouver Canucks, having lost against the Stars and getting the loser point tonight against the Detroit Red Wings, meant that you and I were 1 point off our prognostications. So what the heck do Anna and Chris know about hockey? Absolutely nothing, but that doesn't matter. We have a podcast and we like talking Vancouver Canucks. Looking ahead at the week that will be, the Vancouver Canucks are currently at home for one more game before going on the road and then coming back home again.
Of course. Because it makes sense.
The Colorado Avalanche cruise into town Tuesday night. Prior to all of the trades, I could have thought that Vancouver had a chance.
Yeah.
Less certain.
Then Natchez has got to score against the Canucks. He just is.
Okay. We talked about Natchez and his speed the last time he was in town and how he looked good.
Yeah.
Why do we have to do it again so soon?
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunately the way the cookie crumbles with trades. But yeah, I don't expect Canucks to win against the Avalanche.
If this was on the road, I'd say maybe, but it's at home. And I still have limited faith that the Vancouver Canucks can win games at home. They then go on the road, take on the San Jose Sharks in San Jose. That is a W in my books.
Yep.
It's on the road. It's against San Jose. Lots going on there. Then they get to come home and take on the Toronto Maple Leafs. 4 p.m. puck drop on Saturday because of Hockey Night in Canada.
Yeah.
Toronto was on the Schneid, but
I mean,
they're still a good team.
And they beat Edmonton yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm. Though if you're an Oilers fan, you're really upset about all of the calls the Leafs got because the NHL loves the Leafs.
I mean,
it's one of the reasons why the Toronto Maple Leafs have won so many Stanley Cups in modern history. The NHL loves them.
But the NHL does love the Leafs. Let's be real. But it doesn't, they are set up to succeed. It doesn't mean they do succeed.
I mean, Canucks fans here, but what happens if they love U.S. teams more or what have you? I don't know. So, Anna, do the Canucks find a way to beat those dastardly Toronto Maple Leafs? Or Leafs, sorry, not leaves?
Yeah, you're getting all grammatically correct there. I would say unless they decide to rest all their Four Nation stars, no, I don't think so.
Okay, so being optimistic, we've given the Canucks a possible 2 points out of 6 before we record another show. And we're in agreement that it's the San Jose game that they win.
Yes.
Now, before we wind things up, a comment had come into C4 Discord based on what has been happening in Canadian hockey rinks since the messy geopolitical nature of United States-Canadian relations has gone askew. And if you're unsure of what we're getting at, is that since the United States... or the leader of the United States has declared that there is going to be a tariff applied to all imports from Canada. Canadian sports fans have been booing the U.S. anthem. Mm-hmm. Now, those who've been listening to the show know Anna and I, we could care less for the anthem before the start of a game.
Yeah, I think they're an actively bad idea and have done forever. So,
but when it comes to booing the anthem,
so I mean, I definitely don't think. I mean, I'm pretty against policing crowd behavior as it is, but yeah, I think exercise your freedom, do it. I do think it would be better if teams didn't send an anthem singer out there to be booed. I do think, but. At the same time, I do think they know that it's not about them, especially as they're getting cheered whilst singing the Canadian. But yeah, I'm absolutely fine with people doing that. I don't think American players will be upset. I don't think they'll, I'd be shocked if they noticed.
Do they care? Do you think they care?
Yeah, no matter how patriotic a lot of them are, I really don't think they pay attention. But if they do... okay, I don't care if they're upset. But yeah, I did get into an argument on Blue Sky about this that I think
I'll go and look at it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's so funny that the dumb political takes were happening on Blue Sky today.
Well, it's social media. The dumb political takes often happen
everywhere.
Media.
I basically said, don't just boo the American national anthem, boo the Canadian national anthem.
That would have really gone over well.
And boo Patrick Kane every time he touches the puck. I was going to save this for final thoughts, but to me, the worst possible lesson from American fascism to take from that would be blind patriotism. Mm-hmm. I think this is more of an opportunity to call your government out. You can applaud Canadian government for standing up to the US in that specific instance. That doesn't mean you should at all turn a blind eye to other things they're doing. This isn't the Blitz. We don't need to put up a united front against the US. We are citizens. We have, well, I'm not, but we are global citizens. We have a duty to stand up to injustice everywhere. And that includes within Canada. So I would say I don't trust the Canadian government either. Just because Trump is awful, just because Trump is worse doesn't mean we're doing good things here. So yeah, that's my lesson.
So going back to the anthem part, I am also not going to police. You do you. You want to boo, you want to sit down, you want to keep your hat on, whatever the heck you're doing, fine. Have at it. I've talked about anthems. I will stand during an anthem. I will take my hat off. And I hate having to do that.
Yes.
Between two regional sports teams that are not national in nature.
Yeah.
And if you were to tell me, well, it's respect about, the Canadians and the Americans, well, let's just play all the anthems of all the players that are on the ice to start the game.
We've got two checks now, so...
You know what? It would be hard for me to argue with that justification. They just ran through all the anthems because it's respect of the players on the ice. That's not what it's about. The booing of the anthem, like the woman that was singing today in Vancouver, the people are like, oh, she was shaking and she was nervous because of the booing. I don't know. I was not her. I was not in her head. She did very well. But if you look at her reaction, I think she understood what was likely going to occur because when...
But that doesn't, it doesn't mean she wasn't upset by it.
No, and I'm not, But you could see that when she started singing the Canadian anthem, and it was a much more passionate cheer, and she sort of smiled. I just feel poorly for her, because here she is being hired or brought in. I don't exactly know how it works when it comes to singers.
I do too, but like I say, I think that's on the teams. Like, I understand maybe at this short notice they didn't have an, better option, but that is an option going forward to play the American national anthem.
Pop in a tape. Anyhow, but if you as a listener have some thoughts, we'd be happy to hear from them, hear about them, or hear from you. You can let us know in C4 Discord, discord.io/C4 podcast. You can let us know online, the C4 podcast on some social media platforms, at the real C4 podcast on others, and c4podcast.com on Blue Sky. Let us know. I mean, you might not agree with Anna or I, and that's perfectly fine, but don't come at us with an opinion that you're stating as fact.
Yeah, and honestly, the argument I had on Blue Sky, there were two people sort of disagreeing with me. One person wanted to engage, one person didn't. And the person that wanted to engage, we had a very respectful, back and forth.
Yeah. Anyhow, if you want to listen to our thoughts on a weekly basis, obviously hitting the subscribe button is the way to go about it. You can hear all of our back thoughts on the history of the show at c4podcast.com, though not the full history. The full history, unfortunately, disappeared years ago, but lots of episodes still exist there. The back catalog of the modern C4 era. We talked about Buy Me a Coffee at the start of the show, or what Anna and I like to refer to as
Buy Me a Pint.
And that's where you can throw a few bucks our way. Maybe you want to, give us a few bucks to buy a pint to, drown our sorrows in over the drama that has been the Vancouver Canucks over the past while. Or maybe you want to throw a few bucks our way to encourage us to have better opinions. I'll let you know that's probably not going to do the trick. Our opinions will be as what they are, because that's who we are, and we're not ones to shy away from what it is that we say. But those of you who support us on a monthly or annual basis get access to C4 Off the Rails, which is our exclusive post-show podcast where we talk about all sorts of stuff, not usually related to the Vancouver Canucks hockey. And if you happen to be wondering, hey, why did the latest OTR episode only go live on Sunday? Chris kind of got waylaid over the course of the week and forgot. So consider the Sunday episode of OTR to be a bonus to the likely Monday or Tuesday episode of OTR that's going to follow. But on behalf of Anna, A4603, myself, Chris, at Light Force, I'm going to sign off this week's episode with We Out.